All right. So since everyone is here, I'll hand it over to Xiaofan to talk about what we're going to cover in these two sessions, that is today and Thursday. All right.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Please hold on for a moment. Hello, everyone. We're Deloitte. Welcome to our first training session for our Phase 5.3 Round 2. If you have any questions during the meeting, please feel free to let us know. And we'll provide the training material to you after the meeting. Okay, let's get started. First, the timeline. In this round, we'll have two training sessions. Today's session will focus on a new function, revise quote, which is a solution for combining the requote and reproposal feature and designing the quote reapproval process. And for the Thursday session, we'll focus on deal grouping and partial shipment enhancement. And as a reminder, these features introduced in those two sessions will go live next Tuesday and Wednesday, which is March 24 and 25. Okay, then let's begin the first training session. Here is today's agenda. First, we'll introduce the overview of revised quote. Then we'll dive into each stages of it, including its steps and scenarios, what will happen when it's completed, and the new reapproval process. After introducing the screen and the result of a revised call, we'll navigate to Salesforce to see what this function actually looks like. Okay, so let's go into the first topic, the revised call overview. We'll quickly introduce the differences between revised quote and recall proposal feature. The recall and the reproposal feature have different UI with a few fields that can be modified on the screen, and both of them will inactivate the original approved quote and create a new quote with a new quote number after approval. That's not conducive to communicating with clients for sales. In the future, they will combine into one revised quote, and all users can use the revised quote UI with more fields that can be modified on the screen. You can use it to create a new quote just like the recall and the proposal function do. And most importantly, the revised quote allows you to modify the original approved quote, which can keep the quote number the same. In this way, you can save time from maintaining new quote information, and you can communicate with clients more effectively by using the same quote number. Okay, here is the overall revised quote process. You can click the Revise Quote button on the page, then fill in the fields as needed. If your modification triggers any restriction, the system will display the corresponding error message. If the changes meet all rules, it will proceed to next step. The system will determine whether to display alert about density and the child quote quantity based on your modification. Then determine which scenario you will proceed with. This side is the same as current recall and reproposal function, which is to create a new quote. And this side is to revise the original approved quote. And your modification will be split into two ways based on which fields you want to revise the original quote. One is that the modification will be applied to the original quote directly. The other is that the modification needs to be approved before applying. So you should fill in comments as needed, then submit a request to approver. The original code will undergo reapproval process. And then if your reapproval request is finally rejected, then basically the original code information will not be changed. If your request is finally approved, then your modification will be applied to the original code. When the original approved code is revised successfully, the related partial shipment will be automatically updated according to the column item changes. Then QRS system will process it daily. Okay. In today's session, we will mainly talk about the revised quote. The parchment part will be introduced in the next meeting. Okay. As you can see, the most steps are done by the system automatically. The steps for users are few. Then let's take a quick look at the menu steps of the revised quote. Okay, the Requote and Reproposal button on the quote page will be replaced with the Requote button. You can click the button, then on the pop-up screen, if you fill in the fields you wish to edit, then select the new checkbox as needed, then click Next to proceed. If your adjustment triggers a restriction, you will see a screen with Start Over button. What you can do is click the Start Over button, go back to the first screen to amend your adjustment so that it no longer triggers a restriction. If your adjustment triggers a rule, you will see a screen with Start Over button and the Next button. You can click Start Over to go back the first screen to change your modification, or just read the reminder, confirm it, click Next to proceed. Then you will see a reminder on how your changes will be applied. If you selected the checkbox on the first screen, you will see a reminder that tells you a new quote will be created. If you didn't select the checkbox, you will see this reminder that tells you if a reapproval process is required, which means you are going to modify the current approved quote. Okay. If you still want to change your modification, you can click the Start Over button to go back. If you confirm all your modification and want to continue, you can click Next to proceed. Okay, then you will see the last screen. If you select the checkbox, you will see a message that tells you a new quote has been created successfully. If you didn't select the checkbox and the reapproval is not required, then you have modified the current approved quote successfully. But if the reapproval is required, you will see this message, and you are going to submit a reapproval request. Is there any question?
No, I think you can proceed. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead. And after you read this message, you should click the Finish to submit the request to approver. Okay. The above is the general introduction to the revised quote process and the screen. Then let's dive into the details of each step. First part, when you start to revise quote. For the partner users and the listed ASUS internal user, you can use the Revise Quote button to create a new quote or modify the original quote. And Here is a small change. As you can see, the buttons on the quote page have been reordered for better user experience. The more commonly used functions are placed at the front, such as the inactive quote, revise quote, clone with new opti button, and the submit approval. Reassign issue sales button are also placed at the front of the quote page for draft quote and submit for approval quote. Okay. For the revise quote button, it will be displayed when the opportunity stage is not closed, including close won, close lost, rejected, and the quote status is approved, and the quote is not parent quote of any procurement. If you want to revise a quote under close won opportunity, you should ask a user with permission, such as branch admin, to change the opportunity stage to a non-closed stage first, then click the revise button to use it. And here are more restrictions for the button. If current user's profile does not belong to these list rows, or the quote is associated with any valid order or any valid fund claim, or the quote is in the reapproval process, then you will see these corresponding error messages like this. You cannot go to the next step. Since the button is always displayed on the partner community, we had more additional restrictions for partners that correspond to the conditions of when it's displayed. Okay. If all the usage rules are met after clicking the button, you will see this screen. On the screen, you will see some tips for guidance as well as a new chat box. These tips are displayed based on properties of opportunity and quote. This red tips is displayed when the opportunity stage is verbal commit, and the tips that the quote will be automatically submitted for approval if adjustment to the original quote needs to be reapproval, and these tips that if the checkbox is selected, a new quote will be created and the original quote will be inactive. They are always displayed on the screen. And these tips that input CRAD should be later than the first Monday of next month is only displayed when the current quote is a child quote for annual procurement. Okay, as you can see, all the tips will display in Chinese or English based on the current user's language setting, which means if your language is traditional Chinese, you will see the Chinese. Otherwise, you will see the English.
I see that Priya raised her hand.
Okay, is there any question? Please go ahead.
Yes, I one small question. While we click this revise code, we can also change the account name, right? Which is a T1 partner, the tier one partner. We can change the partner here, right? On this page.
Xiaofan, she
So
can change the
your
account name.
Yeah, you can change
Yes, I
the
think
account
so.
name, which is Disty. And for these
Right.
fields, we have some restrictions that we'll introduce you later.
Sure. Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. If there are no further questions, we'll continue.
I'll
Thank you.
continue. For the chat box, it determines whether to create a new quote or revise the original quote. It's usually unchecked by default, but when the opportunity stage is verbal commit, this chat box will automatically be checked. Okay. Then depending on the user's profile, qual country, and whether the qual is a child qual or not, these different editable fields will be shown on the revised qual screen. And the existing fields information is pre-filled by default. And the colon item field name will display the same as the field translation, which means if the fields have a translation in traditional Chinese, you will see the Chinese here. Okay. Here is the fields that the user can see in different conditions, including the fields that can be modified in the revise qual and reproposal qual feature, and there are more fields that allow to be modified in the approve quote. For example, for partner, they can only see very few fields, such as quote CRAD, request data price, and quantity. But for CPM, you can basically see all the fields. So you can change the information in the displayed fields on your revised quote screen as needed. Okay. And here is what will happen after you change the fields. If you change any field marked as reapproval, including change TB colon items CRD, or decrease offering invoice price, increase the offering support, increase the quantity, and change TB colon items need forecast to HQ tender pool, then you will trigger a reapproval process, and the adjustment will be applied after final approval. If you change any fields marked as Inform Manager or Inform MDM, it means the adjustment will be applied at the end of the revised quote feature and inform related managers and MDM. But if you only change those fields without any markings, the system will revise the quote directly at the end of the revised quote feature. But when you select the checkbox for create a new quote, this process will not be triggered because all the process are for the original quote, not for the new quote. Okay, is there any questions so far? If not, then we'll move on to the next part. The second part is the alert you may encounter. If your adjustments trigger a rule, if your adjustment made on the revised quote screen triggers some rules, you will see this following reminder. If the account name is changed, you will see the reminder that tells you if distributor of this quote is revised. The distributor of other quotes under the same opportunity will also be revised at the same time, regardless of its status. If the current quote is a child quote of any procurement and its quantity is adjusted so that the total child quote quantity is greater than the parent quote quantity, and you will see this reminder that tells you please confirm the quantity you filled in the previous step. Okay, then when your adjustments trigger a restriction, because modifying the fields needs to meet its own requirements. If the adjustment you made on the revised quote screen triggers a restriction, you will see the corresponding error message. When you modify these fields, if the required field is empty or the new expiration date does not meet the rule, the error message will be displayed beneath the fields like this. And here are more restrictions you may encounter after clicking the next button, you will see the error message on the screen with the start over button. For the opportunity stage, when it's verbal commit, the new options cannot be unchecked. And for the column items required fields, they cannot be emptied. And for the column item specification, when the product not confirmed is checked, the specification cannot be empty. Okay. For the account name, aka the distributor, it should be a specific approved direct account. So the account names cannot contain the word generic, or its status should be approved. Record type should be partner, and the direct should be checked. And if the account name is changed, the other approved quote under the same opportunity will also be changed. So the other approved quote under the same opportunity cannot be associated with any valid order or any valid fund claim, since they are precondition for using this revise quote button. Okay, then for the column items plan head ETD, the bullying rules are a little bit complex, but they are important for CPM. If CPM is about to revise the original quote, the plan head ETD can only be adjusted when the quantity and need forecast is changed. And when the need forecast is set to HQ tender pool, the plan head ETD cannot be empty and cannot be less than the allowed forecast week. If call line's quantity is decreased, this plan head ETD cannot be changed. If quantity is increased, then the plan head ETD cannot be less than the allowed forecast week. Okay, but if you're about to create a new quote, when need forecast is HQ tender pool, also the plan head ETD cannot be empty or cannot be less than the allowed forecast week. Okay, this restrictions is only for CPM. If you are not a CPM, there is no need to verify plan head ETD like this, because on your revise quote screen, you won't see this field.
Xiaofan, there's a question Priya left in the chat room. She asked if the revise quote button allows the quote submitter to change the indirect account. So we know that direct account can be changed, but I think at this point, indirect account is not available.
No, the indirect account cannot be modified on the revise quote screen. If you want to change it, you should revise the quote and select the checkbox to create a new quote. Then in the new quote, you can change the indirect account. But for the original approved account, you cannot change it.
Okay. I hope that answers Priya your question.
Okay. Is there any question else?
Yes. So if we if we click the checkbox and change the indirect partner name, so the name of the indirect in the previous approved quote will change or will not change?
Well, not. It would only stay
Okay.
in the new quote.
Yes,
In the
stay in the
second
new
quote.
quote.
Yes,
That
in
will
the
be
new
Yes.
quote
okay.
that you generated.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Understood. Thank you.
No problem. You're welcome. Any further questions regarding the revised quote function that we covered so far? All right, if there are no further
Okay.
questions at the moment,
Okay, if not,
we'll
then we'll
continue.
move on. Okay, We'll move on to the next part. The third part is confirm the following process. After you making the desired changes and review any confirmation messages, you will see what the next process is. One scenario is that if you selected the checkbox on the first screen, which means you want to create a new quote, then you will see this reminder. Click Next, system will automatically process the quote. When you see this message, it means the system action have been completed. The new quote has been created and the original quote has been inactivated. And the inactive original quote will be unable to order and will be synced to EBS. So selecting the checkbox is just similar to the requote and the reproposal function. Okay. The other scenario is that if you didn't select the checkbox, which means you want to change the original quote, then you will see this reminder. Click Next, system will automatically process the quote. If your adjustment does not need to be approved, you will see this screen that tells you have modified the approved quote successfully, and which means the system action have been completed. So the original approved quote will be synced to EBS and the related partial shipment will be changed automatically. If your adjustment needs to be approved, you will see this screen, which means the system action hasn't been completed. You should click the Finish button to submit the reapproval request to approver. After that, the original approved quote will be unable to order in reapproval process and will be synced to EBS. And about the details of sync to EBS and partial shipment part, we'll introduce this part in the next meeting. Okay, so that's all the details of revised quote steps. If you don't trigger any restriction or rule, the revised quote is relatively a simple operation. So let's quickly recap the scenarios of revised quote. So, scenario 1, create a new quote. You can click the revise button on the quote page. On the pop-up screen, fill in the fields you wish to edit, then select the new checkbox. Proceed to the next step. Okay, then view the reminder on how your changes will be applied. Click Next, then you will see the new quote have been created. You can click Finish to close the screen. Okay, then for scenario 2, revise the original quote without need for reapproval. Also, click the Revise Quote button on the pop-up screen, fill in the fields you wish to edit. Please note, in this scenario, don't edit the fields that will trigger reapproval process. Then do not select the new checkbox. Proceed to the next step. View the reminder that tells you if a reapproval process is required or not, which obviously not required in this scenario. Then click Finish to close the screen. Okay, then for scenario 3, revise the original approved quote with reapproval required. So click the Revise button on the pop-up screen, fill in the fields you wish to edit. Please note modify at least one field that will trigger the reapproval process. Do not select the new checkbox. Go to next step. Okay. View the reminder, then click Next. Fill in comments if needed, and you can click Finish to submit the reapproval process. Okay. After you have completed all the steps, the system will also make corresponding changes according to these three scenarios. Now let's go into its details. First, create a new quote. So in this scenario, the original quote will be inactivated and the new quote will be draft, just like current requote and the reproposal functions do. One slightly difference is that the inactive reason for the original quote will be requote, and the picklist value reproposal will be removed since it has been combined into the revised quote function. About the new quote information, the revised from quotation will be the quote you performed the revised quote process. And the revised and the additional quote reason will record the changes of quote number, quote version, quote effective date, CRID, and quantity. The quote version is a new field that records how many times the approved quote has been revised. If these fields are not changed during the revised quote process, then they will not be recorded here, such as the CRID is not changed. So in this field, CRID is not displayed. And these recorded fields will be updated when the new quote is approved. For example, the quote number, version, and the effective date are empty at the beginning. But when the new quote is approved, the quote number will be changed from this value to another value, and the effective date will be updated from this value to another value instead of the empty. But for the quote version, is still empty because even the new quote is approved, it hasn't been revised. So the quote version still be empty. Okay, and more information will automatically be filled in based on the original quote and what you modified on the revised quote screen. When the field is marked in yellow, the value is retrieved from the revised quote screen, such as quote account name, CRID, expiration date, quote name, and some fields about quote line item like quantity, new forecast, plan high TD. And these new quote fields are basically the same as those fields in the requote and the reproposal function. So I won't go into details here. But some fields have additional rules when generating the new quote. For the quote dist sales in charge, if the account name is changed on the revised quote screen, then this dist sales in charge field will be empty, and it should be maintained by a user. For worldwide, if the expiration date is changed on the screen, it will be carried over to the new quote. But if it's not changed on the screen, the expiration date of the new quote will remain empty. And for the quote name, the new quote will have no -R1 suffix. And for the need forecast and plan high TD, when CPM creates a new quote, if CPM change them on the screen, they will be carried over to the new quote. If CPM doesn't change the new forecast and plan high TD, then the value will be retrieved from the original quote. And if it's other user who creates a new quote, the new forecast and the plan entity will be empty, because for other user, you cannot see those two fields on your revised quote screen. In order to avoid the plan entity of the original quote already less than the allow forecast week, it will be set to empty for the new quote. And this field will be maintained by CPM after user submit the new quote for approval. Okay, is there any questions so far?
Yep. Xiaofan, Priya has a question in the chat room. She is asking if, as a quote submitter, so she's sales, she did not select the checkbox in the revised quote screen, and she chose to edit the account name. The system
Okay.
will not trigger it for reapproval in case of both BB and TB. Is that correct?
If you are saying as a sales on the screen, do not select checkbox, which means you want to revise the original quote and
Yes.
you change the account name. Okay, for the account name.
Yeah, I checked back and I think sales cannot
It will
change.
not. Sorry, please hold a moment.
Okay.
I'll find the fields that you can modify on your revised quote screen. For the
Page 22.
For sales, they cannot edit the account name. For sales, you won't see these fields on your revised quote screen. It's only for sales manager, CPM, branch admin, and the system admin, not for the sales. So if a sales click the revised quote button, you will not see this field. But if you are a sales manager or CPM, click the revised quote button and change the account name, then do not select the checkbox. You will trigger this process of informing the inform manager and will not trigger the reapproval process.
So for example, if there is an opportunity raised by a sales and he wants to revise it and change the account name, he cannot do it because he will not see the option to edit the account name. But the same opportunity which is raised by the sales can be revised and the account name can be edited by his manager or the CPM, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And for example, if his manager changes the account name, will the sales himself be informed that in his opportunity his manager has changed the account name? Or if the CPM changes the account name, will the sales who has raised the original opportunity be informed?
If a sales manager or CPM change the account name and revise the original quote successfully, then system will send an email notification to all approvers in the previous to the all actual approvers in the previous approval process, such as for worldwide TB, if in previous approval process the approval step is from ASU sales to sales manager to CPM to MDM. Then when CPM revised the account name, all the users approve the original quote, including sales, sales manager, CPM, MDM, will receive an email notification that tells you account name have been changed. The original quote has been revised.
And in case of worldwide BB quote, which includes the code submitter, which can be either sales or a sales manager, because they both individually use Salesforce to raise their opportunities. So them and the branch admin, only these people will be informed when account name is changed in a code containing worldwide BB products, right?
Yeah, for the BB product, its approval process is from. Here, please hold on. I will take you to the approval process. Okay, for worldwide BB, the approver will be will be branch admin. So when the account name is changed, the email notification will be sent to branch admin who approved the quote in the previous approval process, not to sales manager.
Okay. But is there any reason that we are not giving sales the option to edit the revise the code and edit the account name? Because every time he will either have to go back to a sales manager or to the CPM to edit these things if it is required. He
Right
himself
now,
can, yeah.
yeah, Priya, thank you for your input. Right now, this the chart that you just saw was discussed with project team at the moment.
Okay,
So
sure.
that is the current
Got it.
structure. But if
Got it.
sales team deems that it's needed for sales to have the ability to also change account name, you can bring it up to project team and then discuss internally and see if we need to expand the permissions to allow sales to also edit the account name.
Okay, got it.
Yep. So
And
it's a possibility, but not right now.
okay, if you want to let the sales receive all the other users have been revised the original quote under the sales, and sales want to receive the notification, you can also provide this requirement to project team. Then we'll discuss how to change the procedure.
Sure thing. Thank you.
Okay, then let's go
Thank
back
you for
to
your question. Any other questions regarding, since we're here? If just wanted to see if anyone else have questions regarding what you can do or what fields you can edit or how the process will look like in the future for the sales team. If there are no further questions, then Xiaofan can take over. Oh, wait, actually, someone raised their hand. Ivan?
Yeah. Hello. From time to time, we need to split big quote, for example, for Ministry of Education in Azerbaijan to two different account name, DISTI or to different DISTIs. Is it possible to add to account to split, for example, one quote for two DISTIs and split quantity later? Or we have to change information and maybe make new opportunity with new quote, because till the moment when we are preparing the goods, it could be not clear the financial possibility and available credits line for each DST, or end user could request to split it or change. Could you explain how it could be possible to revise the system?
Ivan, I wanted to make sure that I understand your question correctly. Are you mentioning a scenario where initially maybe there's I don't know, 1,000 pieces that was allocated to this particular end customer, but then initially you won't know which disty is gonna be responsible for sending out the goods, basically. And then you would have two or more disties that comes in charge and takes ownership of the shipment. That's
Yes.
the scenario that you're mentioning.
Yes, exactly.
And do you have an answer for that?
Okay, please give us a moment to think about this question. I remember we have already a function that can deal with this situation. Please hold on for a moment.
小帆, is that assign distance function?
Oh yeah, the assign distance. Please hold on. I will find the related training material to see how the assign distance function working.
I think it's 5.2.
5.2.
Let me see.
Okay, here is the assign distance function about how to assign multiple distance for BB quote. It's just for BB quote, not for TB quote. On the quote page, there is a assign distance button. You can click the button when the opportunity stage is verbal commit and only one BB quote status is approved, and the account name is generic distance on your branch. Then you can choose the distance fill in the CRID for each distance. And to add another distance, you can click add. To remove the distance, click remove. Then there are a maximum of 3 distances can be assigned in this screen. Okay, then here's are some restrictions for your modification. Then after you choose the distance you want to split to, you can fill in the column items quantity. Then click next. The opportunity and quote will be split into 2 opportunity with different distance, and the original opportunity will be rejected. Its quote will be inactive, and the new opportunity will be verbal commit. The new quote status will be approved for each distance.
So it will be available for BB and TB as well, yes?
No, this function assign distance is only for BB quote.
Right. Right now, it's only for BB. For TB, we would probably need more discussion on how that can be done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your questions. If there are any further questions, I see Jessica asked the same question, but I'll leave the response in the chat room for your reference. All right. Are there any further questions regarding revised quote so far?
So,
all right. If not, then
if
back to
not,
Xiaofan. Thank you.
Okay, then if not, no further questions, we'll go back to slide to the. Okay, here. To the second part. Okay. Then the second part is if you want to revise the original approved quote directly, which means your modification will be applied at the end of revised quote feature. The quote status is still approved, and the quote version will increase by 1 based on the original value, such as if the original quote version is empty, which is a default value, empty. It will be set to V1. If the original value is V1 already, it will be set to V2, and so on. The revise and additional quote reason will be updated. Okay. And besides, the fields modified on the revised quote screen will be updated. The quote date fields will be updated depending on when you complete the revise quote process. The approved quote and quotation effective date will be updated to the current datetime and current date when the revise quote process is completed. And the expiration date for Taiwan, the calculation logic is the same as the current way. But for worldwide, there is a little difference. If the expiration date is not changed on the revise quote screen, then it will equal to quotation effective date plus 90 days. But if the expiration date is changed on the screen, then it will be the date entered on the revise quote screen. Okay. For the sales due date and unclaimable date, the calculation logic is the same as the current way. Okay. If the column items quantity is changed, the previous quantity and the quantity changed field will also be updated. Both of them are read-only fields and are updated by system. The previous quantity is empty by default. It records the quantity of previous version when column item quantity is changed on the screen. This quantity change is unchecked by default. It's a flag used to indicate whether the column item quantity has changed during this revise quote process. Okay, then there are more fields that will be automatically adjusted by the system based on the edited fields on the screen. As we mentioned before, if opportunity account name is changed, it applies to all quotes under the same opportunity. And the DC sales in charge will be emptied and should be maintained by user. If quote CRAD is changed, for column items IGP and ETD fields, they will be automatically regenerated. It's for TB column item. And the API will fetch the conversion rate based on CRAD. The price-related fields will the price fields calculated by the conversion rate are also be updated. And if the CRAD is changed to another quarter, the quant items budget, fund request budget, will be reassigned based on the CRAD's year and month. If column item's quantity is changed, these quantity-related fields will be updated automatically. Okay, then if column items offering invoice price or offering support is changed, it will affect the related formula fields of item gross profit. And about the impact logic, it will be explained in the reapproval topic later. For the offering support, if it's changed, then the fund request offering rebate, price histories offering support, and the column item budget formula fields will be updated according to the current logic. Okay. Then, since the revise quote function affects many fields, you can view this field's history on the different page. For the opportunity, you can view the field's history at the top of the page in the opportunity field history link, like this. For the quote, the revise and additional quote reason records these changes, these 5 fields changes. And you can see more changes in the quote history at the top of the quote page in this link. And to assist you in knowing the changes to the quote, we have added more fields to the quote list. You can click into it to see when or who changed this field. Okay, for the column item, you can view the field log on the right side of the page. Most of the fields that can be modified on the revised quote screen already have a log. We also added the product not confirmed field in it. Okay, then about the email notification, as we mentioned before, when the quote is revised successfully, system will notify the related manager or MDM by this email about the changes. The manager is all actual approver in the previous approval process and their delegation user. The MDM is the actual approver on behalf of MDM in the previous approval process and their delegation user. Okay, then about the quote PDF. The quote version field is configured to all the quote templates. If there is no quote version fields in there, it means the quote hasn't been revised. So the quote version is empty. It not be displayed here. But once the approved quote is revised, the version will be shown. Okay, then we've covered scenario 1, 2. Let's talk about scenario 3. If you submit a reapproval request to approver, the quote status will be in the reapproval process and its status remains approved. The unable to order field is checked to prevent user from placing an order in EBS system when the quote is in the reapproval process. And the current approval field is updated to the reapproval request. And at this moment, revise and additional quote reason is still empty because your modification haven't been applied to this quote. It's in approval process. Okay, then the quote approval history. It records all the approval requests, including the first approval request and the following reapproval requests, like this. And the reapproval request naming rule is the quote name plus number of reapproval, like this, RA2. And the quote approval history may have different statuses. If the status is rejected, it means your adjustments are not applied to the original quote this time. For if the status is last approver approved, for Taiwan, it's CPM approved. For worldwide TB, it's MDM approved. For worldwide BB, it's branch admin approved. It means the adjustments are applied this time. But if you see the request hasn't reached final approval, such as the status is waiting for approval, it means the adjustment in this the adjustment is in the reapproval process. And as you can see, if the quote version is greater than the current approval suffix, it means this quote has been revised several times without need for reapproval. For example, the quote version is 17. It's the total number of times the quote has been revised. And the suffix is 14. It's the total number of times the quote has been revised with reapproval required. And there are 3 times that the quote has been revised without need for reapproval. Is there any question about the reapproval process, quote approval history? If not, I will go ahead. The next topic is the Reapproval tab. There is a new Reapproval tab on the quote page, which records the adjustments made during the revise quote process. This tab is displayed when the quote is in the reapproval process, and all internal users who can see this quote can see this tab. Okay, then all the fields in this tab are visible and read-only, including all the fields can be modified on the revise quote screen, and these fields related to IGP information. The column item modified on the revise quote screen is displayed in a different subtab. And please note, if CRAD is modified on the screen, then all TB column items under the quote will be displayed here, as their IGP and ETD will be updated based on API feedback. Okay, then the adjustments are recorded in the new value column. They will only be applied after the reapproval request is finally approved. But if the request is finally rejected, then no adjustment will be applied to the original quote. Okay, then the Reapproval tab is also adapted to the mobile phone like this. You can click the Reapproval tab on the quote page and see its details. It's convenient for user to operate and view information on your phone. Okay, then all the approvers and their delegation users in reapproval process will receive the email notification. And this email is for the quote in submit for approval status and the quote in reapproval process. So the email body has some changes compared to before, such as the note. When the quote status is approved, it means the quote is in reapproval process. You can see the request details in reapproval tab of the quote. But if you see this email and you click the link into quote page, you see quote status is submit for approval. It means the quote is being submitted for the first time. You can review quote information as usual. Okay, is there any questions so far? If not, it's 1 hour. We will take a 10 minutes break. We'll go back at sorry. The device has a little bit lag.
Xiaofan, if we're
Okay.
taking a quick break for 10 minutes?
Yeah, for 10 minutes. I'll go back
Okay.
at 44.
All right, I'll leave a message in the chat room so that everyone can refer to, but quick break before we continue. Thank you all for the
My
question. I
device.
see Abhay has a question too. Let me take a look. In case the first requester forget to click checkbox to change the expiration date before submitting for approval, can it be updated on a later stage before the final approval? I think, Shafan, I think during the approval process, any of the approvers that is still in line can still make the edits, but the approval, once it's submitted, I don't think it can be adjusted by the original submitter, unless he or she choose to revert the submission and then start again. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. It cannot be updated unless the new quote is raised. Right, because every time when you have a quote submission, what happens is there is another record of submission like going around to get approved, and that's the one single record that is being approved. And until everyone approves, your original quote won't be updated. So if, let's say, you wanted to change this quote for the second time, but it already goes into the reapproval process, you would need to retrieve or decline your original submission and then redo your revise approval process. So then your changes is reflected in the second time that you try to send out. Yeah. Do you want to speak up?
So basically what is happening is our sales team, when they raise a new quote, let's say it's a tender business quote, okay, TB quote, they are
Yes.
supposed to enter the expiration date before submitting it to the CPM team. Okay.
Right.
Now, sometimes in a hurry, because that checkbox is so small, right before the submit for approval. Okay, so the sales team tends to miss that checkbox. And when
I
it comes
see.
to us, we do not have the access to change the expiration date or update the expiration date before approving it for MDM approval. So either the access should be available with the CPM or MDM before final approving. Yeah,
I see.
currently it can only be approved by the first approver. Why I am saying first approver? Let's say there is a sales account manager. He will approve it. When it submits for approval, it will go to his manager, that is the sales manager. Then it will go to the CPM. Then it will go to the MDM, and final approval is the MDM. But let's say the first guy, the first sales account manager, if he misses to click that checkbox and update the date, not his manager, not CPM, not MDM can change this. So it takes a lot of time because everyone has to reject it again. It has to go back to the original sender and then he has to raise a new quote. Just for that one checkbox.
I see.
It
Okay.
is very easy for anyone to miss that actually. If you can see the UI, right? It's so small. Everyone tends to miss that. I don't know whether you have seen it in the submit for approval. There's a small
Process.
checkbox that I would like to update the expiration date. Yeah.
Shafan, can you
Either
show
there has to be some
the
access to someone other than the original. Yeah, when you submit for approval. No, next, not this one.
the new UI though doesn't have that update expiration date checkbox anymore, right, Xiaofan?
Okay. Okay.
It would
So
be re-entered or recalculated by the system.
yeah, we don't want it to be recalculated, but we want it to be manually entered. So
I
one
mean,
is
here
like
you would
if there
be.
is no, yeah, ideally if there is no date there, it will automatically calculate to 90 days, right? 90 days. But
That's
let's
correct.
say, yeah, if we don't want it to be automatic, we want to be a manual date, like a 30 days from now or a 40 days from now, whatever, the date can be entered, right? So where do the sales team enter the date while submitting for approval for that particular quote?
If you're doing it in the revise function, then it would be right here. You would see the expiration date field.
Okay,
Here
so
you would
let
be
this
able to
access will be
manually.
available to the CPM, right? So if let's say I get a quote, it does not have the expiration date that's mentioned on the screenshot that I shared. Okay, you can see the screenshot that I shared, right?
Yes, you
Yes.
did
So in
share.
that screenshot, that date actually appears when the sales team clicks submit for approval. Before submit for approval, there's a small checkbox. Correct. If they miss it, I can use the revised quote. Is it?
Ah, I see.
You get
So
my question,
you
right?
were okay. So you were mentioning more of like the first time when you
The
were
first time, yes.
initially submitting the
Before
quote.
before the first approval, like from the MDM, because it is still like submit for approval is from that guy, the account manager, to his manager. At least his manager or the CPM should be able to edit it before going it to the MDM for final approval.
I see.
Priya, correct me if I'm wrong on this point. because we have been like
Right,
facing them
right.
a lot. Yeah.
Right.
So has this like permission been granted in the new version or not? I did not get it from the PPT that was shared.
Because currently what has been released this time is more about like adjusting the previous
Approved code, right? It's only for
right.
the approved
And
codes.
exactly. And it's
Yeah.
not regarding your first initial
Yes. Yeah.
submission.
So
I
yeah,
think
just can you click submit for approval?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, you can use the submit for approval
Yes.
on
When
the
you
draft quote
let's say
page manually.
let's say
Yeah,
let's say
manually.
you forget. Yeah, let's say you forget to checkbox.
mhm.
Now you did not click the checkbox. I would like to adjust. You forgot that. You just did
Yeah.
a next and it went to the next approver. So when the
Mhm.
next approver sees this, he should be able to edit this field before submitting ahead for final approval.
I understand. So you would like
Currently,
him
it has
to
to, yeah.
retrieve.
Currently, it goes back all the way to the first approver, first sender.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is a new requirement that thank you for bringing it up. Can you please raise this to I think well project team is also in this meeting, but I think you might want to go through the process of discussing it internally if this is something you ASUS as a company we want to implement in the future, and then we can discuss with project team on when this can be adjusted because I understand that you are trying to improve improve the process and experience of not having to always go back and start again for the particular field because it is a small field on the
Yes.
screen. But
Yeah, I guess there's a mail already there with the project team, right, for this?
is there?
Yeah. It's already there if I'm not wrong. I will check internally. No worries.
All right. Please raise it internally, and then we can discuss with project team on when this can be done. Basically, sounds like a little enhancement on the first time to submit for an approval. But at this moment, this is a new requirement, so please don't expect it will go live next week. Yeah, but thank you for raising it up. All right. We have one more minute before we come back, so pause for now.
Okay, it's time at 44. Hopefully everyone is back from their break. Well, we've covered all the steps, scenarios, result of the revised quote screen. Then let's navigate to Salesforce to see what this function looks like. Okay, first, I will demonstrate the scenario of revising the original approval quote without need for reapproval. So I can click the revise quote button in the approval quote page. And the screen is loading, which means it's the system is checking whether the current quote can be revised or not. When it's done, here is the screen that you can modify fields. You may notice there is only one tip on the top of the screen because this quote is not under the verbal commit opportunity and not a child quote of annual procurement. So the corresponding tips are not shown. And you can modify these fields as needed. If the modification triggers a restriction, for example, when I type in the quantity, I accidentally empty it. Then I didn't notice it. Click next. An error message will be displayed tells you please confirm the required field in the previous step. So I click Start Over, go back to the first screen, fill in the numbers I want again. So for instance, in this scenario, I will decrease the quantity to 40. And because I want to revise the original quote, so I don't select this checkbox. Then click Next. As you can see, I jump to the screen of coming the following process because my modification does not trigger any restriction or rule. I can click Next to confirm. Okay, when this result screen is shown, it means my modification is applied successfully. So I click Finish to close the screen, scroll down, and this quote date is recalculated to today and recalculated based on the approved date. And the quote version is increased to V1. The revised and additional quote reason is changed because I changed the quantity, only changed the quantity in the screen. So there is version from empty to V1 and the quantity from 50 to 40. And then I can click into the column item that I decreased the quantity. Scroll down and see the quantity has been changed and the previous quantity showing the number of previous version, the quantity change flag is checked. And these quantity related fields are also updated to 40. So the action I just performed is that revise the original quote and no need to reapproval. Then another scenario is that revise the quote which needs to be reapproved. So I can click the revise quote button. In this scenario, for instance, I will increase the quantity to 60 or can change the HQ tender pool, fill in the plan head ETD as needed, or I can change the expiration date, extend it, then click. Still, I want to revise the original quote, so I don't select the checkbox. So I click Next. With a reminder, confirm it. Then you'll see this screen that tells you click Submit, click Finish button to submit it. So I can fill in the comment, then click Finish. Okay. As you can see, the Reapproval tab is displayed, and my modifications are recorded here. The expiration date, the quantity, and new forecast plan head TD. And the quote status still is approved. It's unable to order field is checked. The current approval is changed to the reapproval request. And here is the new record list here. The revised and additional quote reason doesn't change because my modification in this time haven't been applied to this approved quote. Okay, then we've seen the revised original quote to change its field. But if you want to change the products of the quote, then you should create a new quote. So in another approved quote, I can click Revise button on the screen. I select the checkbox, then change some fields that I want to modify it. Then click Next. I will see this message. Confirm it, click Next. Then you will see the new quote has been created. Click Finish to close the screen. Then the system will navigate to this new quote that I created through the revise quote function. And scroll down, you can see this revise from quotation field is this field records the original quote, and the original quote status is inactive. And the revised additional quote reason is also updated. The fields I changed is carried over to this quote, like I changed the quantity to 60. So the quote item 1's quantity is 60. About the different scenario of revised quote. Is there any question about the revised quote?
So I see that Priya asked if a sales manager revised the quantity from 10 to 8 because the quantity is lowered, the reapproval will not be triggered.
Yeah, will
if
not
the
be
checkbox is
triggered.
not selected.
Yeah.
So if we go back to the slide, yep.
Okay, the reapproval process is only for these 5 scenarios which TB column items CRID is changed, and BB and TB's column items offering invoice price is decreased. Offering support is increased and quantity is increased, and the TB column items need forecast is changed to actual tender pool. Then system will trigger the reapproval process. If you are not modify any of them, the system will not go into reapproval process.
And by the way, the checkbox is only an indicator to see if you would like a new quote to be generated. So if you would like to modify the original quote, you would not need to change. You would never need to check the box in the revised quotation. So it's not needed for reapproval to be started. It's only needed if you want a new quote to be added, because originally the requote and the reproposal function that you have currently, or before phase 5.3 goes live, always generates a new quote and never allowed you to modify the original quote. The purpose for revise quote function is so that you can revise the original quote and you won't need to always generate a new quote. So that's the main difference between what you have currently and what is going to go live next week. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect, no problem. All right, any further questions regarding what has been covered so far? We know there's a lot of information, and it's very different and somewhat similar to what you are used to. A lot of the original steps that might be needed to do manually right now will be done by the system. So there are a lot of new things. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or leave it in the chat room. We'll attend to it ASAP. All right. If there are no further questions at the moment, we'll continue with the next section.
Okay. Let's go back to the slide. We'll continue to introduce the reapproval process. First, we'll quickly introduce the differences between the submit for approval and reapproval process. The submit for approval is the quote in approval process for the first time. You can click the submit approval button on the draft quote page. When status is in submit for approval, the reapproval tab, there is no reapproval tab. But for the reapproval process, it occurs when revising an approved quote and the adjustments need to be approved. When the quote is in reapproval process, the reapproval tab is displayed. And for this quote in reapproval process, it still follows the same restriction as an approved quote because its status remains approved. Okay, then the quote undergoing reapproval will go through the same approval process as the quote submitted for approval for the first time. So for the quote approver, please pay attention that you will receive the request that is related to an approved quote in the future. Okay, then let's talk a little bit more about what CPM can do during the reapproval process. When the CRAD offering invoice price or offering support is changed, the information related to IGP will be automatically updated and recorded in the reapproval tab like this. For TB colon item, if any of these three fields is changed, system will generate an IGP based on colon item exists ship weight, pallet time, manufacturing lead time, and recalculate the related fields in IGP based on the changed CRAD offering invoice price and offering support. But for BB colon item, if offering invoice price or offering support is changed, regardless of whether the CRAD is changed or not, system will generate an IGP based on original IGP with the related fields recalculated. Sorry. Okay. And CPM can regenerate IGP through the Get CSID and PN button section on the TB call item page, even if the system already generates an IGP automatically. You can follow the current steps to regenerate IGP. Then your modification will be recorded in the reapproval tab. But if there should be a new IGP, but system did not generate it automatically because the TB products maybe not exist in BOM. And CPM also did not get CSID and PN button manually, then an error message will display when CPM approve the reapproval request. Then if plan head ETD is earlier than the allowed forecast week, when CPM approves the reapproval request, an error message like this will display. This situation occurs because the plan head ETD entered on the revised call screen maybe match the rule, but over time it becomes less than the allowed forecast week when CPM approving. What approver can do is reject this reapproval request, then let user revise the approved call once again. Okay, then let's talk about what you cannot do during the reapproval process. When the quote is in reapproval process, the following restriction will apply. If opportunity stage, when the quote in reapproval process, the opportunity stage cannot be changed to verbal commit or close won. Otherwise, you will see this error message when you modify the stage field. Okay, for Taiwan, you cannot additional quote when the quote is in reapproval process. You will see these error messages. Okay, and when the quote is in real approval process, it won't be displayed in the claimable quote list on the submit rebate page, which means the quote in real approval process cannot generate rebate. Okay, then let's go into the last topic, the reapproval results. One approval result is the reapproval request is finally approved by the last approver. The changes in quote are similar to the scenario revised the original quote without need for approval. The status remains approved. The reapproval tab is hidden because the process is ended. And the quote version is increased by 1 based on the original value. And the unable to order is checked so that user can continue to place order in EBS system. The revised and additional quote reason is updated. And for the adjustment recorded in the reapproval tab and the changes to the related fields have been applied. We have already introduced them before, so we won't go into too much detail again. You can refer to page 51 to the page 54 for how the fields are updated. Okay, then the submitter and delegation user will receive an email notification when the quote's reapproval request is finally approved. And then the other approval request result is the reapproval request is finally rejected. If a reapproval request is rejected by any approver, the request will be sent in reverse order to the previous approver in approval process. If all the approvers rejected the request, it's finally rejected. The reject process for a quote in reapproval process is the same as the quote submit for approval for the first time. So for example, if the request is approved by ASUS Sales to ASUS Sales Manager, then to CPM, after CPM rejected, Sales Manager will be notified. Then after Sales Manager rejected, ASUS Sales will be notified. After Sales rejected, this reapproval request is finally rejected. Okay. When it's rejected, the status is still approved because only the request of revising the original quote is rejected, but the original quote itself is still valid. And because the process is ended, the reapproval tab is hidden and unable to order is unchecked. Users can still place order in EBS system for the original approved quote. And the remaining quote information remains unchanged. To adjust the quote, you can click Revise Quote again. Okay, then each time in reapproval request, each time the reapproval request is rejected, the approver, submitter, and their delegation users will receive an email notification like this. Okay, that's all for today. Are there any questions about the revised quote feature, about the steps, scenarios, reapproval process?
All right. If there are no further questions, well, yep.
Okay, if there are no further questions right now, as a reminder, the second training session is on Thursday and we'll focus on the dual grouping and partial shipment. Okay, thanks for attending. Looking forward to seeing you Thursday.
Thank you all for your time, and we'll do the same as what we did previously. We'll send out an email with the deck that we gone through today, a little bit later today, with all the questions and answers that we have received so far in this session. Since there are a lot of requirements or questions raised during this session, if you have an internal thought of any new enhancements or requirements, feel free to bring it up to the project team and discuss with them, and they'll discuss with us and decide which requirements will come first, basically, because there are a lot of things waiting in line at the moment. All right, thank you all for your time. See you on Thursday. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.